As Moshe's life draws to a close, in Parshat Tavo, beginning with Shevi'i, Moshe calls to the people. Vayikra Moshe kol Yisrael, calls to the people, Vayomer Alehem. Atem ritem, you have seen et kol asher asa Hashem le'einechem be'eretz Mitzrayim, leFaro, le'chol avadav, le'chol artzo. You've seen what God has done for you, what God has done in Egypt to Paro, to all the powers of Egypt. You saw the Masot Hagdolot Asher Einecha Tot Ve'amotim Hagdolim Ahem. You saw all of that. You understood all of that. But did you understand? Velo Natan Hashem Lachem Leiv Ladat. But God did not give you a heart to know. Ve'einayim lirot, eyes to see. Ve'oznaim lishmoa, ears to hear. Ad hayom hazeh, until this very day, as my life draws to an end, as Moshe is reminding them something that they knew happened 40 years ago, but they never understood, they never really knew, they never really saw, they never really heard. What happened? What happened on this day that finally they understood? Rashi has two different approaches to solving this problem. In Rashi, on the pasuk, Ad Hayom Hazeh, until this day, Rashi says, what happened? Shamati. Rashi says, I heard this explanation of why it is only on this day. What happened on this day that they understood? That something that happened 40 years ago, suddenly we understand it. So Rashi quotes, we don't know whom Rashi heard this from. It's not in a midrash, as far as I know. Shamati sha'oto hayom shenatan Moshe sefer haTorah livnei Levi k'Moshe katuv vayitna el haKohanim b'nei Levi. That very day, later on in Perek Lamed Aleph of Devarim, we're going to find that Moshe wrote the Sefer Torah, and that day, what did he do with that Sefer Torah? Vayitna el haKohanim b'nei Levi. He gave it to the Kohanim of the descendants of Levi. At that point, when Moshe wrote the Torah and gave it only to the Kohanim b'nei Levi, Bo kol Yisrael ifnei Moshe, suddenly all the people come and to Moshe and they say, Amru lo Moshe Rabbeinu, our master Moses, Af anu amadnu b'Sinai. We also stood on Sinai, at Sinai. V'kibalnu et haTorah, and we received the Torah. V'nitna lanu was also given to us. Uma ata mashlit et b'nei shivtecha aleha. Why are you giving, as it were, dominion, somehow special recognition in connection with the Torah, which was given to all of us, to B'nai Levi? B'nei Shivtecha, because they're people of your Shevet, of your tribe. Is that why? Vayomru lanu machart. Who knows? Tomorrow they might say to us, Lo lachem nitna. The Torah is ours. Moshe gave it to us. It's not yours. Lanu nitna. When Moshe heard them complaining about that, he said, you've got it. V'samach Moshe al hadavar. Moshe was exuberant. He rejoiced about this. And about this he said, Hayom hazeh niyeta le'am. This day you have become a people. An earlier pasuk in this, about this day, in Perek Chav Zayin of Devarim. What does that mean, this day you become a people? Hayom hazeh hevanti shatem dveikim v'chafetzim b'makom. This day I understand that you become a people who is clinging, which is clinging to God, which wants the presence of God. That's what I understood. So it's this day that it happened. What jarred them into recognition? What jarred them into understanding? It wasn't Sinai. It was, who knows? Can we accept a time when we'll be bereft of Torah? And suddenly, as it were, the importance of Torah in their lives and the centrality of Torah in their lives dawned upon their hearts, upon their ears, upon their eyes, and Moshe Rabbeinu rejoiced. That's they wanted it no matter what. They felt, are we to be denied? There is a story that Rabbi Shuman Schwab, who was the Rav for many years of the Kahal Adat Yeshurun in Washington Heights, which is known as the Breuer or Frankfurt community, which Rav Breuer was the Rav of, for those who managed to get out of Germany in time. Rav Schwab was from Frankfurt, and he went to study in the Mir. Now, even though he had the Jewish education that they had in the Orthodox community in Frankfurt, the Mir was an eye-opener. I know this not because from my father, not because he was a German Jew who had been in Frankfurt, but he was a German Jew who grew up in Berlin. And he also, after high school, went to the Mir. So it was like his year in the Mir, his year in what was then part of Poland. And Rabbi Schwab, a few years after that, also had the experience, except he stayed for longer than a year. My father is another story. He decided, he tells the story in a memoir, it's published. He tells the story that he decided to go to Radin for Shabbos. He wanted to see the Chavetz Chaim, to meet the Chavetz Chaim. And when he came to Radin, he said hello. Somebody took him, I guess, to the Chavetz Chaim, and he said hello to the Chavetz Chaim. And the Chavetz Chaim said, what are you? And it was a strange kind of question. As I remember the story, he didn't exactly know how to answer that question. Like he told him as he had told his name. And so the Chavetz Chaim said, no, I want to know whether you're a Kohen or a Levi or Yisrael. So he said, I'm Yisrael. So the Chavetz Chaim said, you know that I'm a Kohen. Okay. And do you know what that means, young man? That means that when the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt, b'imheira b'yameinu, then everyone will come to Yerushalayim and will all want to go to the Beit HaMikdash. But there's a difference between you and me, and that is, I'm a Kohen, so I'll be allowed to do the avoda. I'll have the mitzvah of doing the avoda in the Beis HaMikdash. But you're Yisrael, and you can't do the avoda in the Beis HaMikdash. Now, I just want to say, imagine getting, you're a 19-year-old boy, and you're in the presence of the Chavetz Chaim, and the Chavetz Chaim says that to you. You could feel like, what? And the Chavetz Chaim said to him, younger man, I want to explain to you. You know why I'm going to be able to do the avoda and you're not? Because long ago, after the Egel Hazav, when Moshe Rabbeinu said, Mi Lashem Elai, who is to God, come to me. So your great grandfather stood and thought about that and was making up his mind, but didn't come right away to Moshe Rabbeinu to redress the wrong of the Egel Hazav, the golden calf. And my great-great-great-grandfather, right away, this wasn't a start. He knew that that was the right thing, and he accepted it right away, and he came running. And because he came running, I merit that when we all run to the Beit HaMikdash, I will be able to run in and do the avoda, and you won't. And then he said, and I almost picture him taking the young boy's hand in his, not part of the story, but I picture it. He said, I want you to learn from this. When something has to be done, when you have to know, when you know intellectually perhaps that that's the right thing, then run to do it. Don't begin to think about this and that and da. And why was Moshe happy? Moshe was happy. He gave the Torah to Bnei Levi. I'm adding this. This is not part of Rabbi Schwab's story. He gave the Torah to Bnei Levi at this last day because he knew they valued it in a way that he had not seen in the other tribes. But now, when it was given to them, they suddenly said right away, right? How can you do this? Right? We're also part of it. And they wanted it right away. They didn't come back the next day or think about it. They just said, give it to us. And Moshe was rejoicing. He was exuberant. Shamati. I can only picture the joy that the Rashi had when he heard that pshat, from whomever he heard it. At the end of the parsha, Rashi suggests another pshat. And that other pshat is based on a Gemara in Avodah Zarah. And the other pshat is that Chazal tell us in Gemara Avodah Zarah Daf Hey that V'lo notan lochem leiv l'dat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give leiv l'dat, that hayom hazeh, a heart to understand. The reason is she'ein Adam omeid al sof dato shel rabo v'chachmato mishnaso ad 40 shana. It takes 40 years before you will understand what your Rebbe taught you. It's the end of 40 years. Ad hayom hazeh. This is a truth in life. A truth in life. Those of you who are just entering the yeshiva, so you will find out. Those of you who've left the yeshiva are going through a process of year by year. It's not necessarily a sudden realization, but the clarity of it takes 40 years. We have to go through the wanderings and deserts of life to understand the miracle of freedom, to understand the gift of Torah and mitzvot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless us that we take hold of the Torah with joy and that we spend the year and years till the end we come to understand how wonderful is this gift of Torah.